Hello everyone and welcome back to the CupcakeJemma channel with me, Jemma, and today I'm going to be rebooting one of my favourite old recipes. It's my new take on a Millionaires shortbread. And we've got a couple of recipes here on the channel for that sort of thing, but this is going to be like extra good because I've done a chocolate shortbread base. It's going to have a chewy salted caramel layer on top of that, and then a caramelised white chocolate topping with like squiggles and crumbs, and it's gonna be so good and it's gonna look amazing. I don't have anything against a Millionaire shortbread. They're really good to bake, but this one's got the edge because it's all like topsy-turvy, really decadent. And yeah, I just always think there's room to improve and evolve recipes, and so this is what we're doing all this month in celebration of CupcakeJemma's 10th birthday. It feels weird to say that because I am CupcakeJemma, but CupcakeJemma the channel. So I'm going to start by making the shortbread, and it's really easy. I'm going to be using a food processor because I have one and it's super good at just cutting through all the ingredients, but if you don't have one of these, you can do this by hand, or you can do it in a mixer if you've got a freestanding mixer. That will work. But if you're doing it by hand, it's going to take way longer than it's going to take in this guy because you're going to need to maybe rub it with your hands and get it to a fine breadcrumb consistency, which is going to take a while. But luckily, I've got electricity and machinery on my side. So I'm going to start by putting in my plain flour. I'm not going to bother sifting this because I'm just going to whiz it up, so that's fine. And generally speaking, I tend not to sift like cookie flour because I just don't think it's necessary. I've also got some caster sugar. Then the all-important cocoa powder. I'm using really good quality stuff. Always look for Dutch processed or alkalized cocoa. Try not to make the mistake of getting like drinking chocolate. That won't be good. And then about 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. And then I have my cold butter here. And then pop the lid on and then get that whizzing. Give it a few seconds to start with and then stop it and do pulses. This way you have a lot more control over how much you're processing, but also it gives all the ingredients a little jolt. Once the mixture starts to climb the edges of the walls, you can then chuck in your chocolate chips. I'm using 70% chocolate. Chuck those in and then pulse that until you start to see small clumps forming, but the mixture is generally still quite sandy. This is looking pretty good. As you can see, it's still sort of sandy, if you like, but these kind of clumps are like falling off, and this is just right. You don't want to over process shortbread because you'll end up with not shortbread. Now, I'm not going to put this all into my tin because I want to save some for a topping. So I've just got a little bowl here and I'm going to put roughly 50 to 80 grams in. That's basically just a handful, maybe a little bit more than that. And just set that to one side for now. And then just dump the rest of it into an 8-inch square and lined cake tin or brownie tin. We use the loose bottom ones here, which are really good because it just helps you remove things. But if you don't have one of those, then make sure your paper goes over the sides so that you can use the paper to lift your bake out. That's a top tip. And I've also got some bulldog clips, which is just going to prevent my paper from flapping around in my windy oven. So I'm just going to give it a little shuffle. And also break up any big nuggets like this. I just want to kind of make sure there aren't any like uneven bits. But just sort of shuffle it in roughly an even layer. And you can see I'm using my gloves here as well because I like to press it down with my hands. I'm going to use my hands just to press it all into a nice even layer. Right, once it's nice and packed down tight, you need to chill this. So you can either do this in the freezer for like 20 minutes or in the fridge for about an hour, just to make sure it's cool before you bake it. Meanwhile, back in topping land, we're sort of going back to the end from the beginning. So my retained bit of crumbage, I'm going to make these into a kind of pie crumb. As you know, my favorite thing. So I thought, why not? Why not make another version of pie crumb? So I've got a small amount of water here, and I'm with my gloves, I'm just going to add a little bit and just kind of use my hands to mix it together until I feel like it's at a good point where I can roll it into pie crumbs. So I'm just going to rub it together with my fingers and thumbs. Yeah, this looks pretty good. And just when it starts to clump together like this, then you can start gently rolling it between your fingers and thumbs and lifting it and dropping it. I just want them to have a variety of shapes and sizes. I'm happy with that. So I have just a bit of a mismatch, square bit of paper in a round tin, because I'm crazy like that. I'm just going to bake these little nugs for 10 minutes. My oven's preheated to 170 degrees C. When they come out, you can then drop the temperature down to 160 degrees and whack the tin of shortbread into the oven and bake that for 25 minutes. Okay, my shortbread has been out of the oven, it's cooled down completely, and now, as you can see, it's all nice and baked, and I'm hoping, it's obviously difficult to tell at this stage without poking a hole in it, but I'm hoping this is really nice and short and delicious and crumbly and chocolatey. Next is the caramel layer. So with a Millionaire shortbread, there's loads of different versions you could do. In my original Trillionaire shortbread, I just did a caramel sauce, guys, and it wasn't even that set, which is one of the reasons I wanted to reboot this recipe, because I always was a little bit like, oh, I wish it had been more of a set caramel. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First things first, I'm going to make a dry caramel with my caster sugar. So just find a nice clean pan, pop it in, and you want to make sure your pan is big enough to hold a little bit of bubbling. I mean, we're not making a massive amount of caramel, but you don't want to be dealing with like bubbling and overflowing out of your saucepan. So make sure you're using an appropriately sized one. So I'm going to set that onto a medium heat and let that bubble away. Eventually you'll see the edges turning a slightly amber colour. When you see the amber colour, you can then get your spatula in there and start moving it around just so that you can heat the sugar evenly. While that's heating up, I'm going to get my cream ready. So I have my double cream here. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt and then 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract and just give that a really good mix. I also have ready my cold chopped butter. That goes in at the end. Anyway, once your sugar is all a lovely amber colour and is see-through and you can't see any more grains of sugar, you can turn off the heat and slowly, a little bit at a time, pour in your cream, stirring it constantly throughout. It's gonna bubble up, it's gonna steam, do be careful, but just keep stirring, keep pouring in a bit at a time, and it should all mix in nicely. Once all of that cream is in, you can then add your butter, and then again just stir that until it's all melted, and then pop it back onto a medium heat, and then get your sugar thermometer in there. Because what we're looking for next is for this whole mixture to reach 116 degrees. So 116 degrees, obviously super duper hot. Wait until the bubbles subside a little bit. I'm giving it a stir to help that along before I then pour it onto my ready and waiting chocolate shortbread. Here goes. So that's all in, and now it will do most of the work itself, but I'm just going to help it along a little bit just to make sure it gets into all the corners. Don't tip it too much, because what you'll end up with then is like a sort of weird little wall of caramel, which will affect your layer beauty when you unveil the whole thing. But just kind of shuffle it along, and if you want to, if you can see any like big bubbles in there, you can also just kind of bang it on the surface. But that needs to cool until it's completely cool at room temperature, and then pop it into the fridge before you go on with the next bit. I don't know why I'm not really taking it anywhere. I'm just going to leave it here. Guys, things are about to get finished, but not quite, because we've got to put the topping on, and I am using caramelized white chocolate, which is just one of my favorite things in the whole world. If you don't know how to make that, we do have a specific video on that, and we'll put a link to that in the description box and on the screen, I think, probably. But it's really, really easy to make, just takes a little time. And all I did was I had some already, and I put it over a bain-marie in a heat-proof bowl with a little bit of cocoa butter as well, just to help it along and also make it set a little bit less hard. And I just had that over a medium heat with the water simmering, not too hot, and just stirred it until it was all melty and lovely and smooth. And this is the result, this kind of delicious golden gorgeousness. Oh my God, I could literally just drink it. My caramel topped shortbread has been in the fridge chilling, which means that when I put this on, it should start to set fairly quickly. So, but I do have a palette knife just in case I need to level it out a little bit. So here we go. Oh, look at the colour contrast, that is gorgeous. With a palette knife, just gently tease it into all the corners and edges. Once you're happy and it's nice and level and bubble-free, you can take it even further. Why the hell not? So I've got a little bit of dark chocolate, which I've melted, and I'm just gonna sort of drizzle and blob that over the top. Once I'm happy, I'm going to get a skewer and then just wiggle it through. Now be careful not to drag it through the caramel layer, which will now be a little bit warmer because of the caramelized white chocolate on top. Once it's looking really pretty, you can then grab your lovely little bits of pie crumb that you baked earlier and then just scatter them over the top. I'm not gonna lie, but I am absolutely gagging to eat this. Look at these layers. So clean and beautiful, and you can see the little, every now and then, a little chunk of chocolate in the shortbread, and the shortbread does look really lovely and light and crumbly. Got this beautiful caramel, and then the caramelized white chocolate top. Oh my goodness, get in my belly. Look at the bite on that. Perfect texture of caramel. That is just so lovely. Like the shortbread is really lovely and crumbly, just as short as you want a shortbread, but really intensely chocolatey. The caramel, salty, perfect chew, really smooth. And then, oh, I just love caramelized white chocolate. This is so delicious, even if I do say so myself. So please do give it a go. I've got some news for you as well. If you didn't know already, we've started doing live bake-alongs over on the Bake Club on Patreon. So if you're not a member yet, please do head over there and check that out because we love having you there and we are really enjoying doing live bake-alongs. We did one already and it was really fun. So make sure you come and join us for the next one. Oh, but please, give this a go. Your taste buds will thank you, as will, I'm sure, many people around you, family, friends, neighbours, whoever, teachers, kids, whatever, because this is an absolute crowd pleaser. So I'm gonna get on with pleasing my own personal crowd within by having a little bit more of this. So I will see you next time with another recipe. TTFN. Does anyone actually know what that means apart from me? Ta-ta for now. Just so good.